We'll try again. Scott Willis.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And it has been enlightening to hear from the National Party with two national ministers in Dunedin today willing to say anything to get elected, but simply can't be trusted. Because failing to confirm to build the Dunedin Hospital to its full capacity is a complete betrayal and an utter kick in the guts for Dunedin. Yes, Dunedinites are angry. Actually, they're furious to see two ministers shape up in Dunedin and give us what they've given us today. We can't trust this government one iota. They slither and squirm away from any clear answer. Dunedin and the Deep South community is like no other. We're a hardy lot down south, but we deserve access to healthcare, not leaking roofs in existing buildings. We don't deserve stressed doctors, nurses who want to go to Australia because they can't cope with the stress this health system's under, pathologists who don't know where on earth they're going to be cited. This government is bleeding our health system to death to fund trickle-down tax cuts. Dunedin deserves a government that works for people and planet, not this coalition of cuts. The health of our people has to come before the pockets of the wealthy. And we need desperately to invest in our health system so it's fit to cater for all of our needs in our communities. And on Saturday, we're going to show the coalition government exactly how we feel. Because you know what ticks me off? Suggesting that $3 billion for health for the Deep South is unaffordable. And when $3 billion for a hospital complex, when the government tells us that $10 billion to explore a possible tunnel for Wellington is cheap as chips. Cheap as chips, $10 billion to explore a tunnel for Wellington. How much have we spent on potholes? We're spending $5 billion on potholes. We're spending $1.4 billion to adapt the road around the Dunedin Hospital, but not on healthcare. So do you think people are a bit mad in the Deep South? You're telling me they are. If this government gets one vote out of Dunedin at the next election, I will be surprised. Because this government has accelerated a funding crisis for universities as well, including the University of Otago. This government's massively slashed research funding for Dunedin's Crown Research Institutes. And now we see this betrayal of every Dunedinite are seeking to divide rather than build, as promised, the Dunedin Hospital. And we haven't yet had time to fully understand what the Coalition's Dunedin Hospital's downgrade will mean, because they're slithering and squirming away from any detail. But two things are really clear. This is National's biggest broken election promise. And it is one that they can't shaft off to their minor coalition partners either. This is all on National. Did they even look at the cost increases that Labor was blaming on their own proposed downgrades when National loudly proclaimed and promised to deliver on a full bill during the election campaign? What did Michael Woodhouse say? Michael Woodhouse, I know they kicked him out, but he said the South deserves a hospital to be fit for purpose for generations, not a patch-up job. And that's what we've got, Mr Speaker. That's what we've got, a patch-up job by a government that doesn't know what they're doing. They're cancelling the link between the islands. They are cancelling healthcare. So what we're seeing today is their strategy to deflect their dishonesty by turning people against each other, by proposing that reasonable healthcare in the South is going to detract from others, when in fact this government wants to spend money on useless projects like looking at tunnels in Wellington. This government does not care for our communities. If this government gets a vote out of Dunedin, it'll get Mark Patterson's vote perhaps, but will it get any others? I doubt. Because what gives me hope is our community, and we're not taking this sitting down. We are strong together, and I look forward to joining in what will be the biggest protest march in our city for a long, long time on Saturday. Because on Saturday we march for our city, we march for our region, and we march for the Dunedin Hospital.
I know I'm going to come across as biased when I say that, but good on you, Scott. That was a damn good speech.
Troy, how many children does Michael Woodhouse and Mrs. Woodhouse have that are still living in Dunedin?
You're probably going to know that answer better than I am.
I was going to say, I mean, Mr. and Mrs. Woodhouse would be too, but I don't know about the children. But that's how many votes they're probably going to get out of Dunedin, not just Mark Patterson's.
I just had a look because I was curious to know, looking at this ideology in this government, that of what is going on as they talk about ideology. If they wanted to save a little bit of money, it would have cost them, according to stuff, it would have cost them around $1.3 million just to rebrand all the buildings to take the Māori names into second instead of first. So there's a bit of savings they could have used.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't know what te whatuora means. I can't see the other words. Oh, you've got to put the English first. Oh, what does kuna? Oh.
Sorry, I'm blind to English. I can only see te reo.
Even the international studies have shown that if you have a situation of a majority and a minority language, is that you put the majority one second because people remember the second one more than they remember the first part of it anyway. It's psychological. Like, otherwise they're going to go, Coulda. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the school. I only see couldas here.
What's a kura?
I like what Scott had to say, especially when he started by talking about exactly what we were just talking about before and the tax cuts that no one in this country wanted.
The one that delivered free Chubba Chup lollipops a week for me.
Oh, that capital gains tax is looking really nice right now.
Oh, their minimum $25 for me was $7.40 per week. That's all.
Yeah, and it's not like you can actually claim back your interest on your mortgage as a first-time buyer.
And see, I'm not for the argument of saying that Wellington shouldn't get infrastructure so that Dunedin can get a hospital. But what we have all highlighted and what Scott highlighted is that there are other areas where money has been spent that is incredibly not needed or has been wasteful. And now a hospital for 350,000 people is going to be limited.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and that hospital is a vital piece of infrastructure, considering, would Dunedin Hospital be technically classed as a tertiary hospital?
Dunedin Hospital is the major tertiary centre for the Lower South Island. So all of the regional hospitals, which in our case is just Queenstown and Invercargill, they transfer all of their patients to Dunedin when they get to full or reach capacity. Additionally, it also works as an important backbone for the entire New Zealand hospital system. So if any of the hospitals in the North Island get to capacity, those patients then have to be transferred to the next hospital that has capacity. So that was part of why Dunedin Hospital needed additional capacity, was to make sure that there was space if there was a disaster in Auckland. For instance, when the floods hit in Auckland, at the same time, they were talking about evacuating patients from Auckland Hospital so they could make space. Christchurch Hospital was also hit by a storm. So the only place they could send them at that time safely was Dunedin. So it is an important area to make sure that we have resilience across the entire national network.
Yeah, it's and it's about piggybacking off that. Like for Cardi White Island, have I got that one correct? When that happened, of the people affected by burns, like okay, they wouldn't have gone to them, but you know, some went to Middlemore, some went to Waikato, some went to Hutt, some went to Christchurch. Yeah, to deal with burns, because you know. That's how our health system works. You know, sometimes resources sometimes aren't in the same places, but you chuck them on a helicopter and you get them around there. And you know, having slack in the system. I mean, a hospital's not a business.
And to keep costs at a reasonable level, rather than having every hospital specialise in everything, for the areas that don't necessarily see patients every single day, we often have the specialists spread out across the country in different locations, usually just depending on the availability of the specialist or of the resources. So Christchurch and Middlemore do specialise in burns. Dunedin, obviously, specialises in dentistry, but also bionics and artificial limbs. So any patients who need treatment for advanced dentistry issues already have to be transferred to Dunedin Hospital.